There's a special kind of terror that comes when your mind wakes up, but your body refuses to follow. Welcome to Night Encounters. Tonight's story comes from a woman named Jasmine who thought she understood the science of sleep paralysis until something began visiting her in the night. What started as a routine episode soon became something far more terrifying. Something that didn't just watch, but spoke. This is an allegedly true account. Some details have been changed to protect her identity. What you're about to hear may challenge what you believe about the mind, about sleep, and about what might be waiting for us in that space between dreaming and waking. Let's begin. The Visitor, by Jasmine. I'm a rational person. I have a degree in biology. I work as a lab technician, and I've never believed in ghosts or demons or anything supernatural. But after what happened to me last year, I don't know what to believe anymore. This started in August of 2024. I was living alone in a one-bedroom apartment in Seattle. It was a nice place. New construction, good neighborhood, the kind of apartment where you feel safe. I'd been there about 6 months and had never had any problems. I've had sleep paralysis on and off since I was a teenager. My doctor told me it was related to stress and irregular sleep schedules, which made sense given my job often required me to work odd hours. The episodes were infrequent, maybe once every few months, and while they were terrifying, I'd learned to recognize what was happening and talk myself through it. During an episode, I'd wake up unable to move, usually with a feeling of pressure on my chest and an overwhelming sense of dread. Sometimes I'd hallucinate, shadowy figures in the corners of my room, voices whispering things I couldn't quite make out. But I'd always remind myself it wasn't real, that it was just my brain in a weird transition state between sleeping and waking, and eventually, I'd be able to move again. The episode that changed everything happened on a Thursday night. I'd gone to bed around 11, exhausted from a long shift. I fell asleep quickly, which was unusual for me. I'm usually a restless sleeper. I woke up what felt like hours later, though when I checked the clock afterward, it had only been about 2 hours. The paralysis hit immediately. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, could barely breathe. My eyes were open just enough to see my room bathed in the blue-gray light from the street lamp outside. Everything looked normal. My dresser against the far wall, my closet door half open like I always left it, my desk with my laptop closed on top of it. The dread came next, that familiar wave of primal fear that accompanies sleep paralysis. My heart rate spiked, and I could feel sweat breaking out on my forehead. I started my usual mental routine, reminding myself this was just sleep paralysis, that it would pass, that nothing in the room was real. But then I heard footsteps. They weren't in my head. They weren't some distant echo from the hallway outside my apartment. They were in my room, clear, distinct, moving across the hardwood floor from the direction of my closet toward my bed. I told myself it was an auditory hallucination, just part of the sleep paralysis experience. But the sound was so real, so present. I could hear the slight creak of the floorboards, could hear the rhythm of someone walking slowly, deliberately. The footsteps stopped at the foot of my bed. I couldn't see that part of the room from where I was lying. My view was limited to straight ahead and slightly to the side, but I could feel it. That presence, that sense of someone standing there watching me. My heart was hammering now. I tried to move, tried to thrash my way out of the paralysis, but my body wouldn't respond. I was completely helpless. And then the bed shifted. It was subtle at first, just a slight depression in the mattress, like someone had placed their hand on it. But then the pressure increased, and I felt the unmistakable sensation of weight shifting onto the bed. Something, was climbing onto my bed. I wanted to scream, but my throat was locked. I could only lie there, frozen, as whatever it was moved slowly up the bed toward me. I could feel it crawling, could feel the mattress dipping and shifting with each movement. It stopped when it reached my chest. The weight was incredible, like someone was sitting on me, pressing down with all their body weight. I couldn't breathe properly. My chest was compressed, and I could only take shallow, gasping breaths through my nose. And then I saw it. A face appeared above mine, hovering maybe 2 feet away. It was human-shaped, but wrong. The features were there: eyes, nose, mouth. But they were distorted, stretched, like looking at a reflection in a funhouse mirror. The skin was grayish, waxy, and seemed to shimmer in the dim light. The eyes were the worst part. They were completely black, no whites, no iris, just 2 dark voids that stared down at me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. The mouth opened, wider than any human mouth should be able to open, and I heard a sound. Not a word, not a scream, just this low, guttural sound that seemed to vibrate through my entire body. I've never been more terrified in my life. This wasn't like my other episodes. This felt real. The weight on my chest was real. The face hovering above me was real. The sound was real. I tried to close my eyes, but even that was impossible. I was forced to stare at this thing, this entity, whatever it was, while it stared back at me. And then it spoke. The mouth moved, and I heard words. They were faint, distorted, like someone speaking underwater, but I could make them out. "I've been waiting for you." The voice was wrong. Too deep, too layered, like multiple voices speaking at once. The sound of it made something primal in my brain recoil in horror. I wanted to die. In that moment, I genuinely wanted my heart to give out, wanted anything to happen that would get me away from this thing. But I was trapped, pinned beneath it, forced to listen. It leaned closer, until its face was inches from mine. I could feel cold radiating from it, could see my breath fogging in the air between us, despite it being summer. "I've been watching you sleep," it said, and the words seemed to echo in my head long after they were spoken. "Every night. I'm always here." The paralysis broke. I screamed, actually screamed, and flailed wildly, striking out at the thing on top of me. My hand passed through empty air. The weight vanished instantly, and I was alone in my bed, gasping for air, my heart threatening to burst out of my chest. I lunged for the lamp on my nightstand, nearly knocking it over, and flooded the room with light. Nothing. My room was empty. The closet door was still half open. My desk was undisturbed. Everything was exactly as it had been before, but I could still feel the cold on my skin, could still hear that voice echoing in my head. "I'm always here." I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat up in bed, lights on, clutching my phone, jumping at every small sound. As soon as the sun came up, I called my doctor. I told her about the episode, about how vivid and real it had felt, and asked if there was anything I could do to prevent it from happening again. She was sympathetic, but not particularly helpful. She explained that stress could make sleep paralysis worse, that the hallucinations could be incredibly vivid, and that the best thing I could do was try to maintain a regular sleep schedule and manage my stress levels. She offered to prescribe something to help me sleep, but warned that some sleep aids could actually make sleep paralysis worse. I thanked her and hung up, but I knew what I'd experienced wasn't just stress. It wasn't just a hallucination. I tried to go back to my normal routine. I went to work, came home, forced myself to eat even though I had no appetite. I put off going to bed as long as I could, staying up until I was so exhausted I couldn't keep my eyes open. When I finally did sleep, I woke up a few hours later in paralysis. It was there again, standing in the corner of my room this time, just a dark silhouette against the wall. I couldn't see its face, but I knew it was watching me. I could feel its gaze like a physical weight. I tried to stay calm, tried to use my old techniques of reminding myself it wasn't real, but then it moved. It glided, didn't walk, glided across the room toward my bed. It stopped right next to me, leaning down until I could see that distorted face again. "Did you miss me?" it whispered. The paralysis broke, and it vanished. This became my new reality. Every time I slept, every time I closed my eyes for more than a few hours, I'd wake up in paralysis with that thing in my room. Sometimes it would just stand and watch. Other times, it would climb onto my bed, sit on my chest, whisper things in that horrible layered voice. It told me things, personal things. It knew details about my life that no one else knew. Childhood memories, private thoughts, fears I'd never spoken out loud. It was like it had access to my mind, like it could see everything inside my head. I stopped sleeping in my bedroom. I moved to the couch, then to a sleeping bag on the floor in my living room. It didn't matter. Wherever I slept, it found me. I became desperate. I started researching sleep paralysis online, looking for answers, for some explanation of what was happening to me. I found forums full of people describing similar experiences, entities that visited them during sleep paralysis, beings that seemed intelligent and malevolent. Some people claimed it was demons. Others said it was aliens. A few insisted it was some kind of interdimensional beings that could only interact with us when our minds were in that vulnerable transition state between sleeping and waking. I didn't know what to believe, but I knew I couldn't keep living like this. I was barely sleeping, could barely function at work. I'd lost weight, stopped seeing friends, stopped doing anything except trying to stay awake as long as humanly possible. 2 weeks after it started, I had the worst episode yet. I'd finally fallen asleep after being awake for nearly 40 hours straight. My body had simply given out, and I'd collapsed into bed fully clothed. I woke up in paralysis almost immediately. The thing was already there, not across the room, not in the corner. It was lying in bed next to me, facing me, so close I could see every detail of its wrong, distorted features. Its black eyes bored into mine, and it smiled. That was somehow worse than anything else, seeing that mouth stretch into a smile that was too wide, too predatory. "You can't stay awake forever," it said, and I could feel its cold breath on my face. "You'll always have to sleep, and I'll always be here, waiting." It reached out, and I felt it, actually felt its hand on my arm. Not the sensation of touch, but something deeper, like it was reaching past my skin, past my flesh, touching something inside me that wasn't physical. "I'm going to stay with you," it whispered. "Every night, forever. You're mine now." The paralysis broke, but this time I didn't scream. I didn't thrash. I just lay there, tears streaming down my face, because I knew it was right. I couldn't stay awake forever. Eventually, I'd have to sleep, and it would be there. I called in sick to work the next morning. Then I started packing. I threw my essentials into a suitcase, called my landlord, and told him I was breaking my lease, and within 2 hours I was driving south with no real destination in mind. I drove for 6 hours before exhaustion forced me to stop. I checked into a motel, one of those cheap roadside places with flickering neon signs and paper-thin walls. I figured if it happened again, at least I wouldn't be alone in my apartment. There would be other people nearby. I fell asleep almost instantly, my body finally giving in to exhaustion. I woke up in paralysis. It was there, standing at the foot of the motel bed, that same distorted face staring down at me with those black, empty eyes. "Did you really think you could run?" it asked, and there was something almost amused in its voice. "I'm not in your apartment, Jennifer. I'm in you. I've been inside your head since the first night. You can't run from me because I'm part of you now." When the paralysis broke, I curled into a ball and sobbed, because I knew it was telling the truth. This wasn't about the location. It wasn't haunting my apartment. It was haunting me. I drove back to Seattle the next day. I didn't know what else to do. Over the next few weeks, I tried everything. I saw doctors, therapists, sleep specialists. I tried medication, meditation, changing my sleep schedule, sleeping with lights on, sleeping with noise machines. Nothing worked. Every time I slept, it was there. Sometimes just watching. Sometimes touching me with those wrong, cold hands. Always whispering things in that layered voice, telling me I belonged to it now, that it would never leave. I started sleeping in 2-hour increments, setting alarms to wake myself up before I could enter deep sleep. It helped a little. The episodes were less frequent when I didn't sleep for long periods, but I was deteriorating. I looked like a zombie, felt like one too. My coworkers noticed. My friends noticed. My parents started calling every day, worried about me. I couldn't tell them the truth. How could I explain that I was being tormented by something that only existed during sleep paralysis? They'd think I was losing my mind. Maybe I was. The breakthrough came about a month and a half after it started. I was researching sleep paralysis again, reading through medical journals and forums, when I came across an article about lucid dreaming and sleep paralysis. The article explained that during sleep paralysis, your conscious mind is awake, but your body is still in REM sleep, the dreaming state. The article suggested that with practice, some people could learn to recognize they were in sleep paralysis and use techniques to break out of it faster or even control the experience to some degree. I started practicing. Every night before I went to sleep, I'd tell myself, "This is not real. When I see it, I'll know it's not real. It has no power over me." It took weeks, but slowly I started to notice a difference. When the paralysis hit and the entity appeared, I could hold on to that thought. This is not real. It's a hallucination. It can't hurt me. The thing seemed to sense my resistance. The episodes got more intense, more violent. It would press down harder on my chest, lean in closer, whisper more disturbing things. But I held on to that mantra. Not real. Can't hurt me. Not real. And then one night, about 3 months after it all started, something changed. I woke up in paralysis, and it was there, sitting on my chest like it had that first night. It leaned down, its face inches from mine, and whispered, "You're mine. Forever." And I thought, as clearly as I've ever thought anything, "No, I'm not." I felt something shift, like a wall in my mind that had been keeping me trapped suddenly cracked. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I spoke during the paralysis. It was barely a whisper, forced through my locked throat, but I said it. "Get out." The thing recoiled, just slightly, but I saw it. It looked surprised, confused. I felt my finger twitch, then my hand. The paralysis was breaking, but slower than usual, and I was conscious for it. I watched as the entity started to fade, its features becoming less defined, less solid. "Get out," I said again, louder this time. It opened its mouth, that too wide mouth, but no sound came out. It was dissolving, breaking apart like smoke in the wind. And then it was gone, and I could move again. I sat up in bed, gasping, my whole body shaking. But something felt different. The oppressive weight that had been hanging over me for months was lighter. Not gone, but lighter. I waited for it to come back, for the episode to start again, but it didn't. I fell back asleep a few hours later, exhausted, and I slept through the rest of the night without waking up once. The sleep paralysis didn't stop completely. I still have episodes, maybe once every few weeks. And sometimes, during those episodes, I see it. That same distorted face, those same black eyes. But it's different now. It's fainter, less solid, and it doesn't speak anymore. I've learned to control it to some degree. When I feel the paralysis starting, I can usually break out of it within a few seconds. And when I do see the entity, I can remind myself it's not real, that it has no power over me. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was all just hallucinations, my stressed brain creating a monster during vulnerable moments. Maybe it was something else, something that exists in that weird space between sleeping and waking, something that feeds on fear. I don't have answers, but I do have this advice for anyone who experiences sleep paralysis. It's not real. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, whatever you feel during those episodes, it's not real. It can't hurt you. The fear is real. The paralysis is real, but the entities, the presences, the voices, they're not. Hold on to that truth. Remind yourself of it every time. Eventually, it gets easier. I still don't sleep well. I probably never will again. But I'm not being tormented anymore. I'm not living in constant terror of closing my eyes. I've moved to a different apartment since then. I keep nightlights on in every room. I maintain a strict sleep schedule. I see a therapist regularly. I'm doing better. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm lying in bed in that space between waking and sleeping, I wonder if it's still out there, waiting, watching. And I wonder if it's found someone else to visit. If you've ever experienced something like this during sleep paralysis, if you've seen something that felt too real to be a hallucination, I want you to know you're not alone. And I want you to know it can get better. But I also want you to know this. Never let it convince you that it's real. Never let it convince you that it has power over you. Because the moment you believe it, the moment you accept it as real, that's when you truly lose. Sleep paralysis is one of the most terrifying experiences the human mind can produce. That moment when you're conscious but trapped, vulnerable, unable to defend yourself or escape. And when something appears in that space, whether hallucination or something else, it becomes a waking nightmare. The line between what's real and what's created by our minds in those vulnerable moments is impossibly thin. And perhaps that's what makes these experiences so haunting. We can never be completely certain. If you have a true, original story you'd like to submit to be featured in a future video, please email us at nightencountersstories@gmail.com. We're always looking for new stories of allegedly true encounters. Thank you for watching Night Encounters. Stay safe out there.